start off with Ms. Vandenbelt for 7 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'd like to go back to the relationship between you and Cambridge Analytica and SCL. And now you're saying that you are a separate company, but you have done work with them. So was this a subcontract? What was the nature of the contract that you had with them?
So we did, as I mentioned, we started work with SCL in 2013, and we did that work in Trinidad and Tobago. And then in 2014, they asked us to make a special American political CRM, which we've talked about, and we did some online advertising for them along the way as well. When we finished working with them in 2016, we have not worked with them or contacted with them since.
And so this was just a very straight up, you were subcontracting, do they refer people to you? Clearly you have personal relationships with some of the key people there.
Well, we had a personal relationship, I had a personal relationship with Mr. Wiley previous to his introduction to SCL, but he left SCL in 2014. We continued to do some work for SCL until 2016. But typically what would happen is they might have a client that wanted services that they needed help in terms of software development or online advertising, and then they would ask us if we would like to help them with that.
So have you received data sets from Cambridge Analytica?
Sir, received which?
Data sets. Have you received, you mentioned a Google Drive that you had access to, but have you received data from them?
From Cambridge? Well, we work directly with SCL. During an election, just like with any regular candidate, if there were like a political CRM that we were supporting, then they might provide the voter file list of registered electors for that particular campaign, and then we would load that into the political CRM for them.
Okay, because Mr. Vickery, when he testified, talked about certain electronic fingerprints, IDs, the ID number of a piece of data, or the listing of somebody as a client, and suggested that it made the relationship look like it was the same company or the exact same data set as opposed to two separate data sets.
Well, the only information I don't know what the researcher was referring to there, but I can say that the only information we've received from SCL in provisioning of services for SCL was specifically for those clients that we were or campaigns that we were assisting.
Okay, and you mentioned that you don't have a data repository, but
we certainly have databases that we use, but we don't retain any personal information from one campaign to the next. And when a campaign or a client stops working with us, we delete all of that information. So we sometimes we provide the tool or the platform, like a political CRM, for a customer, and during that time, that does have personal contact information in it. But then once the campaign is over and our contract work is done, we delete that information.
And you've never transferred that information to any outside source before deleting it?
No, we don't transfer that information to anyone other than back to the people who provided it to us.
Now, in addition to the actual data, obviously a lot of these Facebook profiles are used to create these psychosocial behavioral profiles. Have you, Cambridge Analytica, according to the media, had 30 million of these psychographic profiles. Did you ever have access to those profiles?
When SCL, again, like SCL is the one that we were contracted to, so when SCL provided information to us for voters during elections in the U.S., it did contain some scores or rankings in that information, and some of that was, like, for example, a turnout score. Turnout score might be something that you use to go when you're going door to door to see who you should go to first or last based on how many elections a person has voted previously. And in the U.S., of course, voter turnout in elections is public information, but it also had 5 rankings or scores for personality in it.
So these scores, would you have ever used these scores for other clients in order to determine which ads to target to which people on Facebook?
No, not at all.
Is it possible that any of that information would have been used by others through you?
No.
Okay, so you're saying that none of this information was, when you're targeting for who you're going to advertise to, this is just done by whatever the client says, I want someone in this region. There's absolutely none of these psychosocial profiles being used in terms of determining who to target ads to.
No, the tools that we have access to through Facebook or Google already provide all of the targeting information that you need with respect to an audience. With Facebook in particular, you can target based on geography down to a postal code level. You can target an ad based on the general demographic characteristics, so male, female, general age category. And you can also target based on an interest category. And that information is really all you need in order to create an advertising campaign, and that's provided to us by the clients.
Do you still have any of these scores in any of your databases?
No.
So you haven't kept any of either the data itself, the scores, any of these profiles?
No. And we haven't. We're not a data company, so we have no interest in any of that.
Okay, and you haven't shared that with anybody or,
No.
or received or transferred?
No.
Okay. When you're working, you're in Canada, but most of your work is outside of Canada.
Correct.
Which laws apply to you? Is it Canadian law or is it the law in the country in which you're working?
When we're working with any client, we follow the laws in Canada and the laws that they have in their jurisdiction.
Okay, because as you know, in Canada, as was mentioned, we have very strong laws in regard to third-party advertising. Have you worked? You say you work for campaigns. Have you worked with any third parties, other organizations that would want to spend money in order to influence elections who are not themselves political parties or candidates?
Yes.
Other than the ones in the UK that we already know about.
We have done some work in the U.S. in that
And
way
in
as well.
Canada?
No, not in Canada.
So you don't have any third-party clients in Canada
No.
for elections?
No.
Okay. Other countries, we've talked about Nigeria, we've talked about Trinidad, Tobago. What other countries have you worked with?
We did work in Lithuania, but that was providing a door-to-door tool for a candidate. The United States, Canada, the UK, and those three.
Have you done pro bono work for any third parties or campaigns in Canada or in other countries?
We've not done any pro bono work for any campaigns or related. We've done some charity work, but not.
Okay, but would these be for any third parties that would be trying to influence
No,
elections?
no, not at all.
In any country?